Alright guys, as I mentioned in my last video, today I wanted to do a video with Lamb, who was probably the first person in Tengu format to go as far as they did with Fabled, which is honestly really impressive. So I have Lamb on call with me here. We're going to be discussing the list that Lamb played, as well as, some of the card choices, and then going over some of the gameplay so you guys can kind of see what that tournament run was like, how the list performed, and, maybe if there are any changes or anything like that. So, Lamb, thank you for being here. Let's get it right into it. Tell me about your build and your tournament run.
First off, yeah, no, nice being here. Really appreciate you having me here.
Of course.
And yeah, just I'm like a bit surprised like how well the deck worked in the end, because it was like a really last minute decision to even play in the tournament, because originally I was like planning on judging, but since it was a bit on the smaller side with like between 20 and 30 people, there were already 2 judges, and I was like, well, maybe I can play. And then I decided to just pull up with my pet deck, which I always trying a bit working on, and this is like the final result of that.
Interesting. So yeah, like one of my you hadn't qualified for Worlds prior to this, right? I see so many people that have qualified. It's been like a year, so I don't know who's all. I gotta look back at the list. But you weren't qualified prior, yeah?
Yes, I wasn't qualified prior because I'm like not that big of a fan of like online play. I'd rather play in paper or remote.
Sure.
And usually when the other big events happened, I was like either gone or judging myself. Like I'm sure I judged in 2 of the qualifiers, I believe. Sure. And this was the second time I played in a qualifier. The first time I played like Cats of Chaos, which was also a decent run, but didn't quite cut it. And this time I just decided on going full Fabled.
Nice, yeah. So, because that's like one of my first questions I wanted to ask you about. Like, if this is the last qualifier and your goal is to qualify, you took probably one of the most ballsy decks. Like, this is like the most risky. Like, I mean, it's high risk, high reward. Like, I've played a bit of Fabled in the past too. I like used. There's a time where I was playing it like every week at locals, and I had some good runs with it. I had some bad runs with it. But like, the notorious issue with Fabled is just Maxi, right? Like you just get blown out by that card pretty hard. Yeah. And so I would like, again, like without qualifying prior, like this is your one chance to do it. So like you must have had some genuine belief in the deck. So I kind of want you to break down for me like where that stems from, whether it was just I'm just gonna gamble today for fun, or was it like, no, I actually think this is a genuine good deck. I want your take on it.
I think it was like something 50-50. It was also like a bit fuck it, we ball. Because I really like this deck and I really like this playstyle. But the other thing is like this is probably one of the retro decks, especially in Tengu format, that I played the longest, because way back as a casual, I started playing between 2010 and 2011. So I actually played in that format prior when it was like actual format.
Yeah.
And I always played Fabled. And obviously the deck I played way back then as a casual, as a kid, like wasn't optimal. And revisiting that format as of lately, I just wanted to improve on that. Like, especially if you're playing online, like money isn't an issue. You could afford tour guides, you could afford the Solemn Brigade, like all that crazy stuff that you couldn't way back then.
Yeah.
And trying a bit with that, just I feel like pushed the consistency of that deck way back, way higher, obviously. Yeah. And I felt like this could really work, and then it was like kind of fixing some of the issues, like you said with the Maxi. Like one of the additions I made to the deck is Tricky, which is like a summoning condition, the discard. So obviously, if you're playing into a board and the opponent has a Maxi, he probably, if he doesn't know what you're playing, he wouldn't shotgun the Maxi, obviously.
Yeah.
So if you're going tricky, discard some of the Fables that actually benefit you. You're specialing the tricky, and then if your Fabled effects trigger, your opponent Maxis you. And you get like the special summon, your opponent gets one draw, and at that point, you can already stop if you want to. If you have like back row, if you have follow-up, you can just give your opponent one draw and leave it like that, because tricky is also a 2k beat stick, which can contest Ryo as well, because it's like a summoning condition. Your opponent has to choose if he wants to negate with Ryo. You still get the discard, you still get the special summon off of the discard, or if he lets it go through, and then the tricky with 2k attack can contest the Ryo. This was one of the additions I did to the deck compared to way back then. And also stuff like Tengu and Tour Guide, which also plays really well into boards because of the floating abilities, and to turbo out Kushano, which gets your Grimmer alive, or turbo out Zangan, which is really, really insane with Reborn and Call of the Haunted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and so just to clarify for viewers, basically what we're saying is like the tricky, its summon isn't an effect to summon, so you can't you don't activate tricky in hand like you would like a quick draw or something, and they can chain Maxi to that. It just summons itself, and then the effect of the discarded Fabled's going to trigger. So that's why this card plays around Maxi a bit, because you're not getting a draw 2 off of this, you're only getting the draw 1. Which is really cool.
Exactly.
That's super smart. That also helps, like you said, dealing with Thunder King, because Thunder King is another one of those cards that's like a bane of the existence. That's also where Tour Guide comes in really handy too, because Tour Guide can just make Leviathan to out the Thunder King as well. And so even though it costs you a normal summon, Fabled actually do quite well operating without a normal summon, because they have so many special summons from hand. I think we even saw that a lot in your tournament play. I saw a lot of times where you would just draw 2, and hey, you could summon both those monsters you just drew, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask about, because in terms of card choice, you have 3 Upstart, and something I talked about in my video where I was kind of just looking at your build, and my initial thoughts and questions were since I felt like a lot of your OTKs during your gameplay revolved around Ancient Sacred Wyvern, did you ever feel like Upstart was a negative in that aspect, or was it not really relevant for you? Because obviously this is trying to play really quickly. In fact, you have very little defensive tools, but I was unsure if Upstart was helping or more of a hindrance because of the fact that Ancient Sacred Wyvern is your primary OTK tool.
I can see that. I also considered playing something different, but the thing I really like about Upstart is if you're committing to build somewhat of a board, or if you want to go into Regine line or into Unicorn lines, you can just set the Upstart, then draw 2, then activate the Upstart to draw into another card, and you're just digging for all the good cards. You're digging for BLS, for Reborn, for Call, for your Solemns, all those crazy setup that either stops your opponent from playing, or that lets you play so explosively on turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, where it doesn't matter if you give your opponent 1,000 or 2,000 life points.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
There are I've seen builds that play stuff like the Legacy of Yatta, or what's it called, the Reckless Creed that draws 2 and skips your draw phase.
Yeah.
I didn't quite like both, because I felt like Yatta was too slow, and the drawback of Reckless Creed of not having a draw phase can sometimes bite you back.
Yeah.
Especially if your opponent manages to break through kind of your resource setup, or through whatever you build on turn 1, turn 2. So it was a bit too risky.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then another thing I wanted to ask you about, because this is my personal Fabled tech card that I think is actually really good, and I'm curious if you tested it or messed with it at all, which is Starlight Road. because of the fact that you have to set your hand a lot to draw cards, I found Starlight Road to be really effective, especially because you don't have a lot of negation in your summons. Did you test that card at all? Like, do you like it, or did you find it to like not work, or what are your thoughts on that card?
I'm still experimenting a bit with the deck, especially in the side department. I'm not like the biggest fan of Starlight Road in the main deck because I feel like if you draw into your trap cards, like you either have them like call it a chainable usually in most cases that like does something even if it gets destroyed. Like if the storm gets destroyed, it's like whatever, you just hope that the rest is enough to deal with it. But especially like after siding like in game 2, game 3 situations where you could bring in potentially more back row, I guess Starlight Road could work. For this event specifically, I tested the approach with Mind Crush and Trap Dust Shoot in the side deck to turbo in those cards that can like give me a huge advantage early on. And in case of Mind Crush, depending on how many good hits I have in my hand itself, you can call it an end phase to get rid of opposing hand traps. And if they don't have what's bothering you, you get a free discard that could also give you advantage. Didn't quite work out like I intended to, but I also was testing with some options like playing 1 to 2 discard traps to facilitate the cat Sith in the side deck more, or play like 1 discard trap and 1 more hand trap like DD Crow, or playing just another generically like good trap. And Starlight Road could get into that as well. Like you could play 1 discard trap or 2 discard traps and like 1 discard trap and another good trap and Starlight Road instead of the hand control package I played. I could definitely see that.
Sure. Okay. Well, another one I'm curious about is like both one we have Cat Sith in the side, which like obviously Cat Sith has been like it's like the popular Fabled, right? People are running this in like everything. And then so like I see that and I'm curious if you had any experimentation with maining it or testing it at all in main, or if it just doesn't flow very well with the rest of the deck because, you know, this is more combo oriented, this is kind of more control oriented. But I want to know your thoughts on like maining versus siding Cat Sith first, and then I have a follow-up question to
that. Obviously, since I sided it, I usually like it more in the side deck because in matchups where you have to deal with problematic stuff like Ryo or Floodgates in general, you want to side this in so you can pitch it, get rid of the problematic card, and then play afterwards. I also like this as a one-off in a main deck. I could definitely see it so that you can search it with Grimrow and pitch it with whatever option you have available. That's also a good call, but I feel like since I took more of that turbo approach, as you said, with like getting the focus on the early turns of the game, I feel like adding a more grindy option, which the Cat Sith is, wasn't too necessarily.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess a follow-up question I have, which I guess you kind of explained. Maybe I don't need to ask because I was gonna ask about the Sangan because like with Tour Guide, obviously you don't necessarily need the Sangan in the deck because you can just get Kushano. But I do kind of agree like with what you said earlier about how it's just really insane to synchro with, especially when you have like Call of the Haunted in the mix and stuff. So it kind of already makes sense. So a different question I'll ask is card destruction. Sometimes when I play Fable, this card is like either the most broken card in your hand or just the absolute worst card in your hand, right? So like, I'm curious how the card destruction was for you. Like, was it like, were you glad you ran it, or would you cut it in the future? Like, what are your thoughts on this card?
For that tournament run, I was glad I ran it. It didn't come up too much. I think it like really came up twice, and it was really insane when it came up. I feel like I still would run it in the future because sometimes it can also fix like hands if you have multiple normal summons and all of like your normal summons are good enough to like solve the combo or solve the problem you're having in the situation.
Yeah.
And you still need extenders. And you can like say, I don't have a lot of power spells or traps in the hand. I just have like monsters, and maybe one of those monsters or two of them ideally trigger off the card destruction, even if it's like just one. You can use it and probably draw into your more insane cards, and as long as it does something, it just, in my opinion, it just needs to discard like one really good card. Doesn't even need to discard multiples.
Yeah.
As long as it does that and like refreshes the hand, it's like, as long as it discards one, it's still like a 1-for-1. Like you're trading one card you pitched for a free extension, and the rest it replaces just itself.
Sure. Okay, yeah, and then, I mean, I think we'll hop into gameplay here, but one last thing I wanted to touch on was Tius. I do think that this card was actually genius. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I know from my experience of playing Fabled, there's a lot of times where you just kind of keep going and digging, right? So you just keep drawing. You make like multiple Ragens in a turn. Like sometimes it can happen. You draw like 4 cards, but then you just have these 2 bozos on the field that don't really do anything, and then you're really weak to like Dark Hole on the following turn. But making a Tius, especially since you're on Tricky, who can also like help facilitate that, I thought that was so smart. Like I thought that was such a good adaptation to the deck. Did Tius like perform for you, like to your liking, or like, you know, how did you feel about Tius?
It was like just how you explained it. The intended idea was that with 2600 it can kill some of the like attack check marks of like 2400 and 2500, like specifically stuff like Monarchs or Stardust Dragon or something like that.
Yeah.
So it has like a good stat line to just get rid of 2 cards. Sure. And I also had multiple situations like we had Regen and Librarian and a Tricky on board, and I like couldn't go into Stardust or something like that, or couldn't go into Trishula, which is usually what you want to do with your level 5s.
Sure.
And so the next best choice was the Tiras, and I think it happened actually once where I built like a somewhat big board.
Yeah.
And went in Tiras and get Darkhold in the subsequent turn, so that was fine.
Nice. Okay, yeah, so yeah, it does work as intended. Yeah, I really like that tech choice. But here, well, I don't want to make this video go too terribly long, so let's just hop in. Let's kind of watch your gameplay. So we know round 1, you were against Himne, who was a bozo and didn't show up because he was like 2 hours late to the tournament. So, ironically, we were talking about this prior to filming, but you literally got paired against the 2 X-Saber players in the tournament. One didn't show up, and then this is the second one. So we'll kind of like just jump right in your matches. We'll kind of look at how things go. I definitely like looking at it from both players' hands perspective to see like what happened. Start out with the tour guide getting Veilered, MST set, that's all fine. Okay, you went for Catastor. I think I saw you go for Librarian generically. Why did you go Catastor here? Cause I guess you MST'd the Gotham, so this helps play around Catastor or X-Saber cards pretty well. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that was the choice exactly. So I'm against X-Saber, so I felt like Catastor is something my opponent has to deal with before he can start playing.
Yeah, and here you go for the Black Rose, which is kind of spicy. We're going for the nuke. Is this? Oh wow, that makes Avarice live too. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes Avarice live.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Okay, yeah, so that was really nice. I mean, you do hit a Dark Soul, so he gets some value back too. So it's relatively even trade. Kind of going through the motions here. That's a little scary. That's really scary. Because, like, one thing I noticed about your build is, like, you're not on Veiler at all, which makes sense. It's hard to be on hand traps in Fabled. But that does mean that you kind of open yourself up to get trished. Wow, oh, wait, I guess he searched an end phase. I'm trolling. Okay, but now we have Unicorn out.
That is like super funny.
Yeah. He can't negate. That's insane. So you clear everything, and he can't use... Wow, Unicorn was huge there. That was disgusting. Oh, wow, and now you can go for another Synchro 5. Okay, so we go into Librarian. You've got Call of the Haunted set. There's the Trish. Draw 1 and chain that. Okay, so they get the Sengen. That's actually a smart chain there because it protects your board relatively. I'm curious. I don't know if you win or lose this match, or this game here. So I don't know. Oh, I guess Bryo makes it huge.
I think I did won this.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
So Kushano, brings back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, the BLS top deck there was a little big. Go Catastor, that outs the BLS, but you saw Bryo, which makes it so hard. Yeah, that was just kind of an insane top deck.
I feel like this was probably one of the longest games I actually played.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, this is like a really back and forth game. Like, this does not look one-sided at all. It looks very close. But yeah, Bryanak really put in work there. That's something I've been learning a lot, playing, like, the more I've played X-Sabers, is Bryanak is actually, like, really gross versus X-Sabers.
Yeah, Bryanak's, like, low-key the most insane card of Fabled.
I'm amazed he didn't go for Trish He had Trish, but it is what it is. Oh, there's Yunlei. Oh, wow. that one was just a blowout.
That was a bit too much purple.
Yeah. Alright, so we got the Tengu. Okay, he's going for the Econ to deny the Cerebral. Makes sense. Doesn't want to get Bryanak again. Oh, but there's the Gotham's E-Call. Utopia, that's really good. But the double Paschal draw feels kind of bad. Oh, that's just insane. Yeah, there's the Bryanak. Yeah, Bryanak goes so hard in this matchup, and it's so good with your deck, too. Because now, yeah, you can bounce your own call, set the call, make rage, and draw 2. That's so broken. Oh yeah, why didn't you make Ancient Sacred Wyvern here?
I
guess it's game either way.
Looking back, I like wasn't too sure. I like calculated true, and it was game, and for some reason I was afraid of Gorse, but I already saw his hand, so it didn't even make sense. And like the plan I probably had in my head was attacking with everything, and if he has something, I can make Scrap Dragon with Bryanak and Several, and like maybe bounce one with the Bryanak, and then like pop Regan and whatever is still on board, and then have the warning as a follow-up. But yeah, it was just like I knew everything, and I still played it a bit awkwardly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's fine. Technically, either way, I think either way it was game. I forgot that like this added up to perfect game, but I saw the rage in Cerebral. I thought that's what you were going for, then you did it, because I think I caught the end of this match here. Like I think on stream I caught that one. But yeah, that was like really crazy. But this match really just looked like Bryanak just put in a ton of work, which like again I think it's so good versus X-Sabers. We're going into game 2 versus Valus. I don't remember what Valus was playing. Oh yeah, TG stun. This one impressed me. I think I actually watched your match here. Yeah, there I am in the spectator. But this one was impressive because
I was like,
yeah,
I was scared from the moment I saw the Barbaros. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, like, because I think, I don't know if you have watched my Tournament of Tournament series with Joe, but I had to play Fabled versus TG Stun, and I was like, this feels unplayable. Like, this does not even feel remotely, like, doable for Fabled. And so I was genuinely worried. I was like, I finally catch the full match for you, and, like, there's no way. But, like, honestly, looks like Velis was just respecting the heavy storm, didn't want to, like, all in on skill drain, and your hand is just kind of filthy. So, because we go for the tricky, which is great. I mean, just having the single deep prison set just doesn't do anything. And obviously, since no warning or anything has come out, you kind of just know that you could probably go ham. And it's very unlikely they set Torrential plus that, plus a Barbaros. Like, were you reading a Horn of the Phantom Beast or something, or a skill drain?
I was worried about skill drain for sure, but I feel like we're looking at the hand. I don't have anything in the extra deck that beats Barbaros skill drain, so I was like, I have to try and look like if Brian Neck can bounce the back row, and if everything goes through, I probably win.
Yeah.
And if not, then so be it.
Respect. So we're just gambling here, and it paid off. Just imagine the difference in this game if he actually turn one set skill drain versus setting the deep prison. Actually, I think you literally the game was won or lost based on that set right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this here is gross. You get to draw. Now you have the Ancient Sacred Wyvern, which is just going to do an absurd amount of damage and just OTK. That's so funny.
I noticed I just I didn't even draw for the Librarian on the Wyvern, so...
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember
small
that
misplay on that part.
I mean, it doesn't matter too much. You had game on board anyway. And Lord knows that TG Stun isn't setting anything crazy. Oh, here did you read the Starlight Road? Because you just set call and pass. You didn't actually heavy.
Yeah, I was a bit worried about Judgment or Road. Especially with the hand, like, even if I stormed, the rest of the hand wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, that's true. But here, the Cat Sith, that's an awkward Cat Sith pop. There's the Torrential.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to...
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it kind of looks just like a brick. Which, like, so, like, I'll ask about this, because you sided in Cat Sith versus this deck, but, like, the only face-up cards are typically going to be floaters. Like, was this just... Oh, I guess this is for skill drain, yeah?
Yeah, it was for skill drain.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah. You just kind of opened way too heavy on it. So, tour guide into Kushano, that feels good.
I remember this. This was insane. I was so glad he went for Trishula and super hard and...
Yeah. The fact that was Trish and you had like one of your 3 cards that deals with Trish was honestly kind of unfortunate there. Hey, listen, sometimes in tournaments you just have insane runs. I respect this play too, because you're trying to play around Horn of the Phantom Beast, you can't get blown out like that. And then the BLS to deal with that, the bottomless, like, that was so much value right there, even if he bottomlesses it. Because you just needed to, like, accelerate the game. You really don't want the TG player to have time to set up back row. Into the Stardust, and I think that's just game right there, yeah. Yeah, no, that was a good, clean game. You played it correctly. You played really aggressive, really fast, and it just happened to work out. I don't think this should have been a winning matchup, but it is really, like, amazing that it was, you know? That was, like, the 20% win, and you caught it.
Sometimes it's just your day.
Yeah, that's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. Right, you get warning. Honestly, I feel like getting warning here feels fantastic because you have the second Tengu.
Yeah, yeah.
And you even have the call. So we're eating the damage here. You go for tricky. Oh, and now, yeah, Grimrow's going to put in a ton of work here. I'm curious what you go for. Oh, you go Librarian into Trish. Oh, yeah, that's... Oh, wait, no, it was Raging. Okay, yeah. Dang, we're going off. Yeah, I thought you were going to Trish there, but this makes a lot more sense.
I think in the end I still played it incorrectly in the subsequent turn, but I'm not too sure. I think this was the Darkhold situation.
Yeah. Hear you. Okay, so you brought back the Bryo. Bounce the Thunder King. You know he has Gores. Tour Guide, the Kushano.
Yeah, that was where the misplay that happened. I thought Tira's trigger on attack declaration if you successfully battled, but not during end of battle phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also... This is actually so good for him because that puts 3 darks in grave, yeah?
Yeah. I thought I had like game if he drops the Gores, then attack with Tiras, pop with Tiras, but unfortunately it is during end of battle phase.
Yeah. Probably lose this one because Tiras can't even protect itself here. Yeah, that's the power of Dad.
He came back.
Yeah, no, I played a like small Tengu local earlier this week, and my opponent was on Black Week, and he just blew me out with Dad like 2 games in a row, and I was like, well, sometimes Dad does that. We got the tour guide start. That feels so good when you can tour guide into Kushado and then use Grimro. And this hand is just kind of pretty insane for the start of a game. This was your top 4 match, yeah? Or no, it wasn't your top 4 match.
It was in Swiss. I played Jack Swan both in Swiss and in Top Cut.
I see. Okay, so this was... I did not see this match unfold.
I think this was my only loss in Swiss, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Mind crushing the tour guide. He doesn't have a light and a dark engrave, but yeah, he just wants to crash and then like drop BLS or something. Still lose game. Alright, so we move on to game 3. So then this would be the match you lost, so we can kind of see what happens here. Starts with the spy, you just pass, you Maxi, sure. You're gonna take a ton of damage. Oh wait, no you're not, you're gonna Gores. Surprised you didn't chain that. Like, why would you not chain the Phoenix Wing on the MST to bounce the Gores? I guess it doesn't deal with the Gores, but it's so...
Yeah, and the rest of his hand's pretty good. Maybe he didn't want to discard any of his cards.
Yeah. Comes Tour Guide into Kushano. Chaos Sork. Gets rid of the Gores.
Yeah, that was big. I needed a Fable monster to start playing.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't just like normal summon Serval. Yeah, it was basically that Diggy on the call.
Grimro alone doesn't do anything. That's
the
a bit problematic in that situation.
Yeah. That's literally the like big... That's like the issue I have with Fabled is I'll always open Grimro, but there's like no useful Fabled to normal summon, so it can feel kind of bad. Alright, but here we're against Leigh Murphy. This also was caught on stream, apparently, because I'm in the watchers.
A bit of a side note for that game, if it probably the chat is a bit weird because I was in like a voice call with Leigh Murphy because it's also one of the players I know in real life.
I see.
And we did most of the communication via voice instead of going through DB chat.
Okay, did he know that you were on Fabled?
I think he caught it between the rounds. He was watching me one round, I believe.
Because why why in the, like, would you ever Maxi on the tour guide summon here when if you know you're against Fabled, right? Like, I'd be holding this until you're about ready to go off. Like, I could not believe, because, like, I was watching this on stream and I just saw him do it, and my only thought was, like, maybe he has 2 Maxi in hand, but I'm even thinking, like, if you have 2 Maxi in hand versus Fabled, you're gonna win the game, right? Like, I would never, like, I guess he doesn't have a play, so he's looking for something.
I think that's the reason. I believe he hoped for that I make a bigger play to give him more resources.
Yeah.
I guess.
That was just crazy to me, because, like, your hand is pretty scary too. And he goes for the Minecon play, respectable.
It felt a bit weird to me why he didn't try to crash Sengan with Tour Guide to search for Maxi to stop me from doing stuff, but
yeah,
maybe he wanted to keep the buddy.
Yeah, just keeping the monster. There's no, it's like one of those. Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right. That's probably the correct play as well. Also, I like this beautiful Grim Row. Let's double search all the stuff that makes card destruction nuts. And then the value you get from this here, this is like the most valuable card destruction, because not only do you pitch 3 that are all live on the discard, you also see that you pitch the Gores.
Reborn Gores.
You can just go ham. That's so funny.
That was disgusting.
Yeah, this converts into a free Trishula, which you can't stop. I think, oh yeah, there was something I was thinking about here, which is like, why, were you afraid of Mirror Force or something? Because you put BLS in defense, but I actually think you need to keep it in attack if, like, in the event that this is like attack negation, right? Because my fear is exactly how it played out, where like your Trishula tries to swing over the Leviathan, because you didn't target the Leviathan, you targeted the Sangan. But like, if it's attack negation, then he can just detach and swing over.
Yeah, I think I was afraid of Mirror Force.
And then it was, unfortunately, the D prison. That D prison got so much value there. Oh yeah, and this was the other thing. I was shocked you call the Haunted for Sangan instead of BLS. I was like, oh, this is free. You just end phase call the Haunted, bring back BLS. Is it just because Bryadak is just so much better? Or like, what was the thought process? Or did you just not even think about it?
yeah. It was like if the Bryadak resolves, I get like the draw for turn. I get the search of Sangan.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely contest the remainders of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Bryadak lives, I can just pitch one of the 2 normal summons, because I have 2 normal summons, to bounce back the Call of the Haunted, and then I can do the BLS play on the next turn.
Yeah. Search the Cruise, which feels really good. I'm surprised he doesn't Torrential here.
Yeah.
I think you have to Torrential that Bryo. This is getting a little silly already. And the fact that you draw into Grim Road Tricky, like, come on, man. Yeah, that looked like a little sloppy play from on the Leigh Murphy side. He's got Maxi this time, so hopefully he doesn't, blow it too soon. But hey, this is the exact scenario you were talking about too.
Yeah.
You drop the Tricky, he gets the single draw, and then it doesn't really accomplish much because you still have the big beater on the field. So here, although he can technically just summon Tour Guide and, oh no, he goes for Minecon. Respect the judgment on the Minecon.
I was a bit afraid in that situation of Bryadak, so he can dump stuff and like put a BLS on board himself with the stuff he dumped. So yeah, I felt like judgment. Maybe on that, maybe on the extract monster he summoned, but I wanted to keep the buddy, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think it made sense. That mind control is like terrifying there. Here you go for, you don't have a Dark Engrave, so this BLS feels pretty bad. Just have to go Librarian, basically. Which, like, it's kind of good, because if they out it, you're fine. There's your buddy. No fear of gores, respect. I don't know if I would have attacked there. That seemed kind of scary, but I guess your board state's kind of awful and you're up a game, so might as well just try to win quick. Oh, there's the gores. Why did you set the Chawa?
My thought process on that was I didn't want to hope on the top deck too much, and if it survives, and since he's pressured with BLS, I was hoping he set a monster to force me to banish, and that I can take it with mind control and synchro with the Chava. So I conserved my normal summon. If I had like any meaningful normal summon, I can still do it after the synchro play.
Sure, okay. That makes sense. Here, you had game on board if you... Because I think you did opt to summon Ganassia, and then you went for an Exceed play when you could have just attacked for game. And that was something I was curious about. Did you see that? Or did you, like... I don't know.
Like... The thing was, I was a bit afraid of whatever would be in the back row, obviously because he didn't react on the Ganesha. It wouldn't be a summon trap, because if it was TT or bottomless, he would use it.
Yeah.
So, since it wasn't a summon trap, which it, funny enough, was, kind of, I decided to go for Levier in a defense position and try to summon back his Ryo. So for the off chance, if it wasn't a battle trap, it's still game. And if it was, he had to decide between like either going after my BLS or after his own Ryo.
Yeah.
And the Ryo would like still stop him. That was like between that, and if he would react it onto my summon of the Levier, I've gotten the Everest alive, which kind of worked out.
Yeah, you also did kind of hard walk into Torrential if you had Torrential. That was a little scary too.
but that was like the same situation. If he had Torrential, then I also had the Everest alive.
Yeah, you have the Everest, so it's like semi-fine. Here you go for Tengu attack. He drops scores. That doesn't really matter because you're going to clear through it. Dang, and that Tengu. Just beautifully stalling another turn. But I mean, you're in such a good spot here with Tius plus... Oh wait, but then he rips his own BLS, and that was insane.
I was in a good spot until I wasn't.
Yeah, I forgot about this. This was crazy. The BLS into the Tribute It for Vanity Speed, so you have no play, and you have to call the Haunted. Into his own Avarice, like Murphy, you're disgusting. Oh my god, and the double Thunder King Vanities. He actually brings that back. That's so insane. Alright, so now we're in game 3 here. This board is looking pretty good for you. He's forced to negate. He wasn't forced to negate. Interesting. Why not why not Mirror Force there? I think I would always Mirror Force and keep the Thunder King, because Thunder King does so much more against you than that Mirror Force does. But I could be wrong. I guess Mirror Force is pretty good against you too. The Trish. That's really good here because there's no Mirror Force.
I think that's just game with a villain, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, see, it's kind of crazy because, like, I feel like that's where a lot of your wins come from. It's just like a really fast, like, oh, I deal with their immediate board and OTK them. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of crazy how effective that actually is for Fabled to do. You know, like, not a lot of decks could just OTK that quickly. And I think that's one of the strengths.
I felt like that's a big advantage of Fabled into pretty much all of the mid-range decks. Because all of the mid-range decks in Tango, I believe, revolve around trading optimally. And with like how aggressive you are and how much pressure you put on them, they have to deal with your stuff, so they can't actually trade optimally with you anymore.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And like, yeah, most decks in Tengu, especially right now, it's super popular and common for mid-range, right? So like, a lot of decks are playing a little slower, which means like Fabled is pretty overwhelming for a lot of those decks. So in some ways, it's like pretty smart. This was really lucky he didn't discard Cat Sith. The fact that he didn't discard Cat Sith was insane to me. Oh, and then here I think this was an. Oh wait, no, you don't have the Wyvern play because you're low life points. I like the putting it in defense.
It was like a decision between either going for the Tiras or like going for the Everest, but thanks to the draw, I could like do both.
Yeah. And here, this Bryanak does literally nothing. I was thinking, like, he like, I remember he, like, took a big thonk there, and I was like, what are you thinking about? Like, this is just game no. If you can't out both, you lose, you know? And, like, he just couldn't out both.
He forgot.
Well, this hand here looks awful on his end. Your hand looks playable. Nice little Tengu pass into the tour guide. Respect, pop the Sangan to get rid of the Tengu altogether. I appreciate it. Into the Gores. Ugh, and then the Trish. That was I thought you were gonna go for a Black Rose or something. So like the Monster Reboard play on the Trish was actually filthy. And then the fact that you hit the other Cat Sith, that was actually just straight insane luck. Cause like,
yeah.
That was like his best play on the following turn was like, even if you Trish, he could just normal Cat Sith and then Synchro for 8 and go Scrap Dragon, and then you're in like a pretty losing position. But the fact that you hit his second copy of Cat Sith means there's no way he has a third, and that like he's just not gonna have the tuner. And he obviously doesn't have Valor, he would have Valored the Trish, which is just so funny to me. Dang, the Kushana Wars. You have quite a lot of things you can do here.
That BLS was insane.
Yeah, and that BLS top deck is absolutely disgusting.
That was disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, this combo gives you a nice like +6. I don't even know. You got so much value off of that. Yeah, and then there's the Ancient Sacred Wyvern for just straight game. And you can, like, you know he doesn't have gore, so there's just no way you can lose there. God, that thing had to have been massive. And then we get the unfortunate, the grand finals. We can watch this back and see if there's anything you could have done differently. I think I remember there were some parts I thought that were a little interesting. See, and honestly, in this early game, I thought you were in a really good position because you opened Heavy Storm MST versus Gravekeeper. Like, this Heavy Storm was really good. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't Judgment here, because I feel like you do not want to just, like, that Torrential is super valuable, and you do not want to leave open board versus Fabled. So I was surprised that he didn't Judgment that.
Yeah, I also felt this was kind of a bit of a slow start for me because Cruise without any setup like doesn't accomplish anything, which is also a problem I saw throughout the tournament run with the deck. That probably I would at least I'm thinking about cutting Cruise to 1 because I felt like it's the worst discard. It also
Yeah.
doesn't work with Tricky because it's the one that can only be discarded by effect, while the Fabled Beasts can be discarded by cost and still get their effects.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't know. The cruise is like the weird one because like when it's good, it's insane, and when it's bad, it's
Yeah.
terrible. And this hand here is like this was so unfortunate that he's able to get up another Necro Valley, and you just have the most dead possible hand under Necro Valley. Like all of these cards are terrible right now in this like current state.
This was like hope and pray for an MST that didn't show up.
Yeah, and then you get Royal Tribute in there, so that feels even worse. Yeah, okay. So we just scooped. That's fair. This is probably no coming back from that. This one was pretty decent. Yeah, see, this one I like because you have all the options in the world to like go play really fast. Like you can get a nice setup out the get go. And there's the rivalry. What happened with the Raging?
Tarantula. I attacked into prison, and then I thought like it's probably a safe play to go into Stardust or Scrap Dragon and start picking apart the back row, and on the summon Kushano it got Tarantula.
Yeah, that's fair. This is one of the most filthy combos, is like Kushano pitching Ganashia feels so good. Because you just can like, if you haven't normal summoned yet, it gives you so many options.
This was also something that didn't felt quite right because at the time of the card destruction I kinda had to normal summon Ketsif. Because like pitching it, I had to pop one of my own monsters, so yeah, the only play was to normal summon it and sacrifice the normal summon for whatever I would play, what I would draw with the card destruction.
You maybe could have played it a bit slower, because I thought you were going to go Bryanak, right? Because you could have just used Kushano to pitch Ganesh and then normal summon
then normal summon, yeah.
and go Bryanak and then play it, like, because Bryanak still is like really effective, especially when you have double Decree, right? Like, that's gonna, like, how does Gravekeepers play? They can't set.
Yeah, I see that as well.
Which, I mean, he has Dark Hole anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but it could have saved you a little bit there. Which I think you still win this game anyway, because this is game 2, yeah? Yeah, this is game 2 because you have Decrees in. One thing I wanted to ask about, though, is you still have Cruise. You have both copies of Cruisin' versus Gravekeepers, which I was shocked about.
I think I cited out pretty much all of the remainders, like the Colts, the Reborn, and probably BLS as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hadn't like enough stuff I could side out for the good stuff I couldn't side in, and I think I just valued my engine more instead of like going after other power cards.
Yeah.
So it depends on how well my opponent plays and how the first 2 turns work out. I rather have Cruise or in general Fabled names I could work with instead of having like something else.
Yeah. Well, and one other question I want to ask, because like you mind controlled you blind mind controlled the recruiter, right? And so obviously you want to do a tour guide to exceed with it, but why not flip the recruiter first in the event of rivalry? Because if he has rivalry, then they're not gonna, I guess, like, if they have rivalry, then you can't summon the tour guide on the flip anyway.
I just like I didn't expect rivalry, to be honest.
Oh, really?
I just thought I wanted to see what the face down was. So that depending on the situation, I could either go for Kushano, pitch Grimrow, and start synchro climbing, or just go for a slow play with Sengan and stop his recruiter by just going into Leviathan.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this scenario starts feeling really rough, but the fact that he like pops Sangan and gives you the Cat Sith search feels really good. And clears your board, so now you can summon Tricky, which feels nice too. Oh wait, but then I forgot we're dealing with the Royal Tribute for 4, which was like this is like the worst feeling in Game 3 of Finals. But I was actually genuinely impressed at how you were able to kind of like whittle your way back into this game just through like Dark Hole and like other plussy cards. Like getting the heavy was big.
Yeah, I feel like at that point it's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, you just have to kind of stall. Which, like, I mean, you do kind of come back slowly. The fact that, like, Royal Decree was putting in a ton of work here, which I thought was pretty funny. Just one of these cards was Dark Hole, and that was unfortunate. But hey, I thought you maybe had this right here when, like, as soon as you, like, had Leviathan, because I was like, without anything, you can't, like, you know, without any other card, he can't do anything. He needs exactly Spy to do anything, and I just thought that was, like, crazy. Oh, wait. Wait. Interesting. You could have read the Spy.
This was like biggest brain fart ever. I thought it was like anything but Spy, because the thing is, Kushano didn't help by clearing the board. Like, the correct play would be just attacking with the Leviathan and then just have the Catsif discard 4 main 2 to clear the remainder of the Spy. And so I don't have the option anymore, and now he can pop off, and yeah, that was definitely a big problem.
Yeah, it was also really smart of him to put the Descendant in defense too, because that's
otherwise
so
I could have crashed.
So you actually did have the window to win. I thought it was just like he got the lucky Spy top deck and it was over, but you actually did have the ability here.
I didn't know if I would call it the window to win, but at least like the window to survive and stop this from happening, and then like try to grind it out further.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Dang, that's crazy. I didn't even notice that in the moment. But I guess I also didn't see your hand, so I didn't know you had the Cat Sith in hand. Oh, that was so tragic. I mean, either way, it was an insane run, though. It was an absolutely insane run. Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of like the whole last game was like constantly back against the wall. So
yeah, no, that's very stressful, especially when it's like for winning with Fabled. There's a lot of pressure because no one's really done that yet. So like, it would have been a really cool win. But you know, either way, like I said, I even messaged you like, hey, no matter what happens, I want to do this video because I want to look at your deck and like kind of your experience with this deck. Is there anything you would change about it going into, like, you kind of mentioned the cruise thing, like, do you have any thoughts on anything you would want to change or try like moving forward, or do you think the list is actually pretty solid?
Yeah, I think the cruise is probably the biggest point. Like changing one cruise for I don't know what, actually. Maybe I wouldn't probably play more monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would get into either a spell that lets you play even more aggressively, like probably a one-off enemy controller that also synergizes well with all the monsters you can put on board, and would like trigger it into Sangan or Reborn Tengu itself. I could see that. I could also see like a good one-off trap in the main deck. But I'm not too sure, like maybe move up the Dust Shoot in the main.
Sure. Yeah, that could
But Yeah, and probably in the side deck, the last 3 spots, the hand control package, probably take them out and try for more defensive cards to, especially with the 3 Ketsup in the side, to try a more mid-rangey sort of game plan if you're up against those floodgate decks or decks that have like lots of annoying cards, so you can play like a combo Ketsup hybrid sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. All right. Well, before we wrap this up, do you have any shout outs or anything that you want to give for, you know, any friends at home, anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely a big shout out to my team and locals group SKF. We do like locals, visit events, whatever, and or like I know those guys like since I play Yu-Gi-Oh, and we are like a friend group from in the middle of Germany, and yeah, those guys are just awesome.
Awesome. All right, and then my final question for you is is there a possibility we see Fabled at Worlds?
Well, honestly, like there's always a possibility. I just try a bit and like probably whatever deck I feel like most comfortable with, I'm taking to Worlds, I guess.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it's gonna be Fabled, but there's still a chance.
Well, I know myself and probably many others watching this video are hoping it might be Fabled. We get to see more Fabled action at Worlds because it was cool to watch. But either way, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I think we'll wrap it up here. So I am going to quickly shout out my patrons. So shout out to Wabi Adam, Eric Gagnon, Hobenite, My Dude, Photo Shooting, Brian Ford, and Spenol Brand. Thank you guys so much for your support. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and have a great time doing today.